Hey crew, I've got the key to this 21 Karma GS-6 Luxury. We are going to take it for a drive, but first, let's check out how it looks on the outside and inside. Starting here at the front, we've got some very Aston Martin-esque LED headlights and daytime running lights. There is a reason for that. Henrik Fisker, who designed the original Fisker Karma, was in a former life an Aston Martin designer. Karma's all blue badge is here on the nose. Below that is something of a mustache that's painted all black here with this Blackout Package. Carbon fiber front piece. And then as you step to the side, here's where I completely fall in love with this car. Because you drop it low, look at those haunches. They are gigantic. Distinctive looking car, to be sure. This one is painted in Pacifico Grey. It's a flat gray color. Really works with this car. As do the wheels. Standard 21-inch wheels. This one has optional 22-inch HRE wheels. They are a cool $9,900, but they fill out those wheel arches so nicely. Standard Brembo brakes on this vehicle as well. This one has optional cross-drilled rotors and optional yellow painted calipers. Karma GS-6 badging on the side. And just step back to appreciate the profile of this car. It looks like nothing else on the road. And part of the reason for that is that they just condensed the cabin to this one area in the middle. So it has like an endless hood and a gentle taper to that roof line. It looks huge. The back is nice and tidy with these slender LED taillights, Karma badging on the trunk lid. And just, again, drop it down to see how wide it is. Incredibly wide. This is the reason why I'm constantly setting off the lane departure warning system, because it's just taking up the whole lane. Now let's go see that interior. The door handles are kind of funky. They're just these hand-sized cutouts in the door. You can reach in with your fingers, press up on the button, release. The back door opens pretty wide, but then there's this huge intrusion from the wheel arch area, and if you've got a tall driver, that's me at 6 feet tall, then your access point is pretty narrow. You do have these beautiful sport bucket seats wrapped in this bridge of Weir leather. They call this color Palisades. It feels amazing. And you've got this carbon fiber trim on the inserts. That's an option. Let's get in slowly. Watch your head. Really duck in and contort your body. I've done this a few times. And now we can see we've got no foot arches or foot wells, so my feet can't go forward anymore, so my knees stay up tight to the body. I do have a little bit of knee room, headroom. None of it. My head is on the roof, but it is a microfiber suede wrapped roof, so at least it feels good. You've got heated rear seats and power window controls. This huge center console area, meaning it's a 2+2 setup, is because the batteries are mounted in between the seats. All right, getting out is fortunately pretty easy if you duck your head. Two quick notes before we climb up front. Back left, we've got our charge port. Back right is our fuel door. The frameless windows in this car are cool because typically there's a piece of peanut black plastic here separating the front two windows, but this is actual glass. Up front, we've got the same leather-wrapped sport bucket seats like the rear, but unlike the rear, they're not just heated, they're heated and ventilated. Power adjustments here. No sunroof, panoramic or otherwise, so it does get fairly dark in this cabin, especially if you choose a dark-colored interior. Like the rears, we've got carbon fiber inserts and these buttons to get out. I love that there's an arrow on them, just in case you get confused. Open the door this way. Climbing inside. It's easier than the rear because of the space for my legs, but I still have to duck my head or I crack my noggin on that low roof line. Digital instrument cluster here is reconfigurable as you go through the drive modes and on the right side of the screen. No head-up display. Large touchscreen infotainment here, does have Apple CarPlay that you can plug into, and it is fairly easy to use, so they did some research and testing on the UI. Carbon fiber trim up here on the brow, on the insert, on the steering wheel, which is wrapped in that same sumptuous leather as the seating, and it is heated. Drive selections are here, window switches, cup holders. I love the leather detailing on this upper dashboard with the stitching around the circular air vents. Looks and feels amazing. One of my favorite touches is that the glove box is opened by this button with the image of a glove on it. It just makes sense. So yes, while this is a tighter cabin for sure, it is sumptuously wrapped in ultra high quality materials that match the price point. But now let's go drive it. Let's kick it on. We encounter some futuristic startup music before the seatbelt chime. So let's go through our drive modes to start. We have 3 of them, and they're here on the left-hand side of the steering wheel. You click this paddle, and we go through. We've got Stealth, which is our all-electric mode. Sustain, which, as the name suggests, holds your battery level at that position with the gas generator. And then Sport. This one unlocks the full 536 horsepower and 550 pound-feet of torque. On the right-hand side, which actually won't work until we're in drive, I can show you our 3 levels of regenerative braking. Let's hit reverse here on the triangle drive selector. You can show the camera angles. We've got a few of them. Just wide angle, we've got a bird's eye view on the left-hand side, a top view, kind of 360 view, and then back to your rear. And what's cool about the camera system is it will stay with you at any speed. So you can access it, as I'll show you, while we're driving. Not to be a distraction, just in case you want to see it. And so we're going to start at regen braking level 1. You can see that there on the right side of the screen. Let's just do a quick turning radius test. Yeah, it's a pretty wide turning circle. They didn't even turn on the camera for that. Horn test. Pretty standard horn. Nothing futuristic about that. And as we creep out of here, share a bit of history on Karma, which was first Fisker Automotive. So that company made the Fisker Karma, which was a gas-generated electric vehicle, and they made about 2,000 of them before the company just folded because the vehicle itself, while being dramatically styled, very similar to how it looks right now with the GS-6, just it wasn't that impressive as a performance vehicle. It made like 400 horsepower, but it weighed so much that it couldn't get out of its own way. And so the company folded, and then in 2014, a Chinese auto parts company came along and scooped up the assets, including the battery supplier, and they formed a new company called Karma. So, kind of confusing. Karma was a model name, now it's an actual company. So that is the company who makes this vehicle, but first they made the Revero, which was basically just the Fisker Karma continued. Then the Revero GT, which was improvements to that, and then this vehicle, which is most notable for the fact that they dropped the price like 60 grand. The Revero was a $140,000 car. Now this car starts, the GS-6 starts at $85,000. The one that we're driving, the luxury version, is a 10 grand more than that, so it's $95,000. Oh, that's a fire truck. We're stopping. This vehicle is similarly styled to the Fisker Karma as we saw from the exterior, but the biggest change, and the thing that was carried over from the Revero GT, is the powertrain. So while it's still a dual electric motor powering the rear wheel platform with a gas generator, now that gas generator isn't some GM turbo 4-cylinder. It is a turbocharged 1.5 liter 3-cylinder that's sourced from the BMW i8. Why did it go to sport mode? Was that me? Sorry. Now we're back to stealth, and I am going to turn the camera system off. So the gas generator doesn't send any power to the wheels at all. It is rear wheel drive, but it doesn't send any power to the rear wheels. It only supplies the electric powertrain, the 28 kilowatt power battery pack, with juice as a range extender and also as a way to unlock the full performance, giving the electric powertrain its maximum output. 536 horsepower, 550 pound-feet of torque in the luxury version. If you get the GS-6 Sport, which is another 10 grand more than this, then you get an extra 100 pound-feet of torque for a total of 650. So this vehicle will get to 60 miles per hour in a little over 4 seconds, whereas the GS-6 Sport will do the same test in the high 3s. So
that's your history. That's catching us up on this vehicle. And we're starting in stealth mode to just see how it is if it's operating like an electric car. You can see we have 43 miles of range. There's a total of 80 miles of range if the battery is fully charged. And a total range, if you include the gas generator's range extender, of 320-ish miles. As an electric car, you'd never know any different. It weighs about the same as a Tesla Model S. It's just over 5,000 pounds. It rides similarly well. The suspension is a little firmer than I probably would have expected of something kind of distinctly in the luxury alternative energy space. But no worse, I would say, than a Model S. Now as we make our right turn here, let's go to Sport. We're going to unlock the full performance potential. You can just feel the suspension there. And put the hammer down. You can just hear that 3-cylinder kick on, and it is loud. It is rather loud, would you say? And I'm not sure if that's just, you know, what we're actually hearing of the gas generator, or if it's like they're piping something in through the speakers. And I mean, it does get the car moving. Does it quite feel like 536 horsepower? I don't know. We'll have to see off the line how it feels as well. But kind of just mid-range. My goodness, that generator is so loud. And not in like a pleasing sort of way. But now we know it's operating because in sport mode it has the gas generator on at all times. And when you're not foot to the floor, you don't really hear it. Especially at freeway speeds. You don't really hear it at all. So it just blends into the background when you're not hammering it. And here the cabin insulation is pretty good. There is a fair bit of tire noise. You can't really get around the fact that you're on 22-inch wheels, skinny little sidewalls. You've got some tire noise. The wind noise is kept to a pretty good minimum, going to stealth. It's quiet. It's comfortable. Nothing to balk at here. Now, if we had 90% of the battery, we'd be able to use a launch control system on the GS-6, but we don't. So we're just going to do a 0 to 60 launch of putting our foot down. And we're there. That seemed about right. Again, without the launch control system, that seemed about right for the low to mid 4-second range. Having the low weight, or the center of gravity be so low, also helps us feel planted through a corner. Though the steering feel is not the most communicative. I'll say that on center, there's nice weight to it, and the turn-in is pretty sharp, but off center, there's not a whole, it's sort of mysterious as you're going through the corner. Now let's go to sustain mode, just to hold on to the battery, and that'll use the gas generator as needed, but then let's turn up the regen level. And even though it has a 3rd level of regen, when I take my foot off the gas, it's going to slow the vehicle down, but never to the point of it being a one-pedal drive experience. It's going to stop me right around where I'm supposed to be here, but you saw how early on I left off my foot, and it's only just now taking me to 0. So the G's it's pulling from slowing you down are never extreme, even in Regen 3 level. Now we're going to talk about something that you probably anticipate when you look at the proportions of this vehicle, but you don't ever fully realize until you're actually in the driver's seat. The visibility in here is pretty bad. There's a large C-pillar there that cuts into visibility. You do have blind spot monitoring, thankfully, on this vehicle, and in the luxury version, you have the other active safety features that I alluded to that we'll test out later. But the forward visibility is very much sports car-esque. I feel like I'm looking out over a C7 Corvette or Dodge Viper's hood. It's long and the haunches are so pronounced that my forward visibility is impaired in that way. But the complaint stops there because this low seating position and the look out over that hood makes me feel like I'm in a sports car. And that, the look is clearly the main attraction to this car. But from the driver's position, you also want to feel like you're in something special. And certainly the attention this vehicle gets says that. But just it's so cool looking out over that massive hood. You feel like you're at the helm of something truly great. And that's worth part of the price tag. We can adjust the digital instrument cluster in a few different ways. You can first off just pull up the camera at any time and go through the different angles here from the steering wheel. But then you can also change up the information on the right side of the display. So here's our engine RPM, the power that we're making at the wheels, the torque, coolant temperature, G meter, that's always fun, the compass, radio signal, interesting, and then back to the engine RPM. Now in sustain mode, we can hear just mildly in the background that gas generator on and just burbling a little bit to keep juice in the battery, to keep our range around what it is at 38 miles. And in this environment, it's really unobtrusive, and you can kind of appreciate the idea of a range extender powertrain, where it's not a hybrid, it's not ever sending power to the wheels, but it is always keeping juice in the battery as long as there is gasoline in the tank. Wanted to quickly show you the Apple CarPlay system on this vehicle, because what I do like, and this is again why the UI is very good, is it takes over the whole screen, and it's really very responsive. So this gets a thumbs up from me, certainly. And these zones where you access certain features on the car are really very intuitive, super easy to use. And one of my favorite features in this car is that you can have it set where the turn signals, which I'm going to do when we get up here so it's not confusing to people, can be kind of loud, like most vehicles. But you can have it set that if you're at a light, or you're coming to a stop, they just go completely into the background. You don't hear them at all. So here, you'll hear when I'm turning at speed, but when we get to a point where I'm stopped or slowing almost completely, just try it right here. Do you see that? It just completely fades away. It's just cool. And you can even have it set where they don't make any noise at any time. I love that. It's just smart. It's clever. I do have some curves ahead of me now, so let's go to sport mode and give the GS-6 some exercise. Now, thrust out of a corner is pretty solid. Stable. There's that gas generator. The gas pedal, or the brake pedal I should say, good thing I'm hitting that, is squishy, but the braking performance is strong. And you know what? I think it was a bit unfair earlier when I said that there was a numbness to the steering. Quick, yes, but I said it was mysterious. It's not. There is a good sense of the vehicle's stability through the corner via the wheel. The looks match the driving experience. Who knew? Yeah, this is definitely not Henrik Fisker's Karma. This is a much better product in every sense. Now I want to show you the driver assistance features in action. So we'll turn on adaptive cruise control here, click it down to set the speed, and then we'll turn on the lane keeping assistance. I'm just going to take my hands off the wheel just for a moment, just see how it holds me in the center of the lane, if it does so. The blue lines mean that it knows where the lane markings are. And I've set the following, yep, this wants me to chime in on the wheel. I've gripped on. Okay, so I have to do some minor correction to the wheel for it to know that I'm actually tuned in. I'll increase the speed a little bit here. And there's a little curve up there, so we'll see if it stays in the center of the lane. Floating me over. But it does keep me in the center. Correction on the wheel, let it know I'm paying attention. So you can't keep your hands off the wheel for all that long. And there is a bit of float in the lane, but it does keep you relatively in the center. It's an active system. It's noting where you are and making sure you don't get too close to the borders before it has to turn on the system. And I mentioned earlier for the exterior walk around how wide this vehicle was. And that proves true with the lane departure warning system, because I feel like I'm never even actually departing the lane before the system's alerting me, so I'll show you here. So it gives me the red bar and then some haptic feedback on the wheel. I do like haptic feedback, and you can set it up where it just gives you that, like I have it set up, instead of the audible warning as well. But it's just, the car is so wide that I'm constantly setting that off, even if I'm paying full attention. There it goes again. I feel like I didn't even leave the lane. It's going. The summary of my thoughts on the Karma GS-6 Luxury is this. 2 complaints. One, that gas generator 3-cylinder is frankly obnoxiously loud when you're fully on the power. However, when you're not, it kind of just fades in the background. And the ride quality is a touch on the firm side. I can excuse the second one for the fact that it does have the performance to sort of validate the firmness of the suspension. And if you're thinking about something in this class, which is frankly a class of 1 in the gas generator segment, luxury performance segment, the Tesla Model S is going to come to mind. But I'll tell you what this has that the Tesla Model S will never have. It has a look that turns heads no matter where you take it. It's going to start a conversation. A Tesla Model S, at least where I live in Orange County, which you can see of a lot of it right now, is just not going to spark conversation except by the Tesla fanboys. This vehicle looks exquisite to anyone. The cabin is extremely well upholstered with high quality materials, though it is on the tighter side. And if you're planning to have full-size adults in the back seats, plan on a different model. Apart from that, I really like the Karma GS6L. Thank you guys so much for watching this POV Drop Impressions. I will see you again next time.